This is kind of a mantra for us. Reclaim should be an asset, not a daily source of frustration. Our reclaim system is part of the larger overall wash system. So there's a balancing that needs to happen. We're trying to make it so you don't have to be a wastewater engineer, an expert to run all of this stuff. We're trying to make a device that is there to help you better wash cars and run your business, and not something that really drags you away from your daily operational goals.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our education session on solving reclaim headaches. This is a presentation that Gavin gave at the car wash show back in April. It was something where we gave a really high-level overview, but this is something we wanted to review again to kind of give you more details about the product itself. We got a lot of great feedback for it, so we wanted to be able to spend a little more time on it. Obviously, the pitch session only being 20 minutes, we didn't get into all the nitty-gritty, and we had a lot of questions, a lot of good feedback that came out of it, so we wanted to be able to revisit it. So at this point, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please go ahead and just drop those into the Q&A. We will review those at the end of the session, but if they come up during it, go ahead and ask them just so we have them there so you don't forget them. There may be a chance for Gavin to answer them during the presentation, but either way, we'll make sure we get to them at the end. When they're fresh on your mind, go ahead and ask those. When the presentation wraps up later today or probably tomorrow, you will get a recording, and I will also drop in the Q&A section, I will drop all the presentation slides so you can pull those up now if you want to be going through those as Gavin goes through them. But you'll also receive those in the follow-up email once the session is complete. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Gavin Klami, our product development manager, who also is in charge of our engineering department here, and he will take you through the presentation. So Gavin, they're all yours.
All right, thanks, Dan. Again, thanks for everybody joining. Hopefully we'll get into some details here on our reclaim system and just better explain how we are addressing some of the challenges that you guys might be facing in the reclaim space in your car washes. So we'll just jump right in here. So overall, this is kind of a mantra for us. Reclaim should be an asset, not a daily source of frustration. We're trying to make a device that is there to help you better wash cars and run your business, and not something that really drags you away from your daily operational goals and metrics there. So in reclaim, there are problems. Reusing water can be a nuisance in many ways. We want to just kind of jump through some of those, highlight what they are, how some other competitors may be addressing them, and how we differ from some of those competitors as well. So labor, maintenance, water quality, clog nozzles, and odors. Those are kind of the big four for us in terms of what people have to put up with some reclaim systems. Labor, maintenance, daily stuff, expensive upkeep, yearly water quality. Obviously, if you're going to reuse the water, you need it to be high quality. It's a customer-facing product at the end of the day. Clogged nozzles. You're going to use this through a high pressure array. If your nozzles are clogging, that's going to cause you operational downtime. It's going to cause issues for you and your customers. And odor is a huge one as well. That's something that really can hit you right in the face for a site that is using reclaim, and something that's key for us to try to address. So operators have gotten used to these headaches, but they shouldn't have to. Again, we're trying to make a better product for you, something that is not a chore to use. So the quote we really like from one of our partners in the industry, Nathan Birch over at Express Car Wash: "My managers shouldn't have to touch the system. They shouldn't even know it exists." So ultimately, at the end of the day, what we built is a reclaim system that works better, requires less, and delivers more. We want it to be something that you can set up and forget, not only from the operator standpoint, from the customer standpoint as well. Something that is just there, working in the background, again, as an asset, helping you run your business. So here's some more details on our approach for reclaim. So again, these headaches, labor and maintenance. Our solution is really a simplified, more durable design with fewer daily tasks. There's a lot of automation in our system. We have an HMI and a PLC. You can set it up with a variety of settings so that it matches your operational goals. And then that system is going to monitor itself and really take care of itself. It's going to switch states when it needs to backflush the filter. It's going to measure filter pressure differential. It's going to warn and alarm you if there's a problem with itself. And there's really no daily touch points whatsoever on the system. No filter basket, no strainers, nothing of that nature. Another headache is obviously water quality and clogged nozzles. So for us, that's all about direct media filtration. So some of the other companies that are using a more of a cyclonic style, we're using direct media filtration, which really gets all of those particles out, both high density particles and neutrally buoyant particles. Odor, for us, we tried to keep it simple again, make it easy for the operator. For us, that's chemical dosing. You guys are dosing chemicals throughout your process all day, every day. To stay away from a more costly or more complicated, difficult to upkeep ozone or UV light system that might be having difficulties as well in a reclaim system. For us, chemical dosing is consistent. It's intuitive. It's something easy for you guys to pick up on. It's something for you to change up and down if you need to change your dosing throughout the year for seasonalities. And again, it's just consistent and it works, which is a key part of reclaim for us. So daily labor and maintenance. In other systems, you might have to do a number of things each day. You might have to self-priming pumps. There's often a daily strainer basket that you need to clear. Again, that's due to the fact that they can't take out all of the contaminants within the system through the cyclonic systems. There's ozone generator issues, and again, clearing clogged nozzles. So a system that's not filtering those materials properly, they're just sending those on to downstream processes, which are causing you headaches other places in your wash. For us, it's really as simple as put it into run mode. It's there, it's going to monitor itself. It's not going to send things into your nozzles. It's not going to have a daily basket that's cleared because it's going to do that automatically when it backflushes itself. So on the media filter, we really consider that true filtration. So it's we have a high capacity filter that does vary in size. We'll get into that depending on if it's a standard flow or high flow system, but it's going to remove over 99% of the particles over 10 microns. So it addresses your neutrally buoyant particles, as I've said. So things that would normally pass straight through a centrifugal separator, we are going to filter out directly. And the media blend we have in there is proprietary to us. We've tried a couple different media blends and it really works well, has long life, and is really geared towards your use in a car wash. And therefore, when we have that direct filtration, really our goal there is that you can maximize it for high pressure functions. You can use it on multiple high pressure functions throughout your wash. Obviously here in our little GIF there on the side, you can see that's our blasted device, our high pressure prepless arch system. But really it'll go through any high pressure array, top, bottom side of car, anything that you need to use reclaim on. Another core part of the system for us in terms of water quality and just ease of use as well is our Grundfos SEG pump. So it's a submersible grinder pump. It replaces the need for the strainer basket as well because it is a in-pit grinder pump. So it's also helping to break up all that material that might be in the pit that we're sucking up. Prevents any foreign objects from clogging the filter lines. It's designed to handle flushable materials such as cloth, wood chips, paper, and plastic. It is a submersible sewage pump. So anything that you could imagine being in a sewage system, this pump is designed specifically to handle. So it's really quite a robust pump, can handle a variety of things. Really, the only time we've ever seen one really clog is a piece of drop rebar from when a tank was cast in place. So minus things like that, it's going to chop it up and send it up. So anything having to do with, wash material, cloth material, anything of that nature, small things blown out of the back of a truck, all that type of stuff, really is going to have no issue coming through the pump there. And it's mounted on a stand in the pit to reduce the possibility of ingesting those non-floating materials and other sediment that's coming down into your tank. The goal there is ultimately to keep the pump out of the particularly heavy settlement in the tank. It extends filter life. It extends the pump's life. And that just lets you, as you go through your multiple times a year, possibly depending on your site, sucking your pits out. Ultimately, it's not something that we're having to deal with in the pump itself. So odor control, another key area of concern for everybody, right? So typical systems might have a short lifespan, often have a very expensive yearly maintenance requirement. Ozone can be dangerous. It's odorless, so that can be a hazard to people in the back room or other employees at the site. Something that's ultimately difficult to work on and not intuitive for operators. Somebody really needs to become a specialist in some of these systems to keep them running correctly. Our solution is chemical dosing. So we have a long-lasting dosing product, consistent results. It maintains presence in the system with a longer half-life than ozone. It's safer to handle, safer to manage. Again, it's very consistent with some of the other products you have in the wash already. So the familiarity is there, and there's really not a concern to bring in another material like that into your wash. It's operator adjustable right on the HMI. So, if all of a sudden you're hitting a warmer month's climate and maybe you're having some more odor challenges, it's easy to adjust right on the HMI. You can change the dosing rate both in our recirculation mode or in the filtration mode. And again, less maintenance, no generators. You can monitor the drum. When it gets low, simply switch it out for another drum of solution. Very, very simple, very easy, and very intuitive. A couple other things for the odor control that we have there. Another thing that helps control odor overall is obviously oxygenation of the water, right? So the more oxygen we get in the water, the more we're going to control odor. So our reclaim system comes with a micro bubbler. It's essentially a very nice, oversized aquarium bubbler in a way. So you're going to dump quite a bit of oxygen into that just through your compressed air system in your wash. We generally have this be suspended in your middle tank. We don't want it on the bottom of the tank to not churn up all of that sediment, but it allows a lot of oxygen to be dosed into the pit water as it passes through your system. And the chemical dosing goes through our high quality dosing pump. So this is a Grundfos laboratory grade chemical dosing pump. It injects the chemical deodorizer directly into the reclaim flow. So again, we can program that right from the HMI, the dosing rate. Overall, the dosing rate can vary from site to site, what your climate is, what your pit design is, how much reclaim you're using. But I would say on average, we're seeing customers use between 1/4 and 1 gallon of our treated product per day. It can be very site dependent, it can be seasonally dependent, but that gives you kind of a ballpark figure to work with. Now just to get into some of the kind of actual mechanical system overviews. So the system, in terms of the above ground system, is going to be 2 main components. We're going to have the main skid and a separate filter. So you can see, as with all of the innovative products, stainless steel welded frames, high quality, very durable, built to last. They're not going to rust out. It's not a powder coated aluminum situation that looks great coming out of the factory, but a year from now is really starting to fall apart on you. We have pressure sensors on the system. Again, the system's monitoring its own health in lots of ways. So you can set it on how it filters based on pressure differential or time of day. It's very easy to set up and gives you a lot of flexibility in your system. The process valves that are going to change automatically depending on what state the system is running in are all pneumatic valves. They're high quality angle seat valves. They're good for millions of cycles. We really have never had one of those fail in any of our systems at this point. So they're very, very high quality. We're not cutting the corners on any of those types of things. Grundfos dosing pump we mentioned, that's going to actually deliver the chemical into the water flow itself. There's an airflow regulator to set how much air you're sending to the micro bubbler, which will be down in your tank. Then you have your multimedia filter on the side. That's going to come delivered to you with the distributor in it and the media on the side with directions on how to fill the media in yourself. Makes it easier for you to get it in back room and position everything, obviously. And then we have flow regulators. That's going to restrict the flow for back flushing and for the forward filtration mode so that we're maintaining the filter properly and ultimately sending the correct amount of flow out to your wash. And then obviously the electrical enclosure on the front. You're going to bring in 480 power or 208, depending on what you get. You're going to bring in your control signals, and you're pretty much off to the races. Obviously, also need an air line brought to the machine as well. So 2 sizes, depending on your wash's reclaim. We have a standard flow, which is 25 gallons per minute of filtered water, or a high flow, which is 50 gallons per minute of filtered water. The main frame skid is going to stay exactly the same dimensionally. There's a few small components that change on it, but overall dimensions are exactly the same. Your largest change is you're going to have a 24-inch diameter filter for the standard flow, and you're going to have a 30-inch diameter filter for the high flow. Again, that just lets us send a higher volume of water through in the high flow system, but otherwise dimensionally the same. Media blend is the same minus quantities, obviously, for the different size filter. So overall kind of system operation and how it works. So if we start at the top here, we're going to collect your used water in your wash pit. Obviously, the bigger the pit you have, the better to some degree, but we can work in quite a large variety of pit configurations. If the system is not demanding filtered water, you're going to ultimately go through this recirculation loop. So we're going to suck the water up from the pit. We're actually going to push the water up from the pit, I should say, from that submersible grinder pump. We're going to chemically treat it, and we're going to send it back to the pit. So if the system is sitting idle, there's no demand for filtered water at the time, you're going to stay in a somewhat of an idle loop where it will recirculate the water through a separate exit from the machine that you can plumb elsewhere. We generally say to plumb that out somewhere into your conveyor pit. You can use it for a little bit of a belt cleaning or a conveyor pit washdown situation. But ultimately, we want that water circulating through the entirety of the drainage system as much as possible. It picks up oxygenation, it spreads the chemical throughout, and just maintains that healthy water supply. If you're not in the recirculation mode, you're going to chemically treat on the way to the filters. So we're going to send that water out to the filtration. We're going to bring it back. We're going to send it out to the wash through the other manifold. From there, you can choose how to use the reclaim kind of however you want. You can send it to a storage tank, or you can do a direct reuse. So the system can be configured to either run to a tank, often sitting on top of a high pressure pump stand, or directly into the high pressure pump head. The only real difference in terms of setup from that we need is we need a secondary signal if you're using direct feed application. Basically, it allows us to prime the pump when you're getting ready to use it. And then when that high pressure pump turns on, we're able to rapidly change to filtration mode and send you the flow of water you need to make sure we don't have any pump starvation problems. And then ultimately from there, the water is there for you to reuse in your car wash kind of however you see fit. Obviously, there's a lot of variety and opinions on where people like to use reclaim in car washes, but we're trying to make a high quality reclaim water that really allows you more usage throughout your wash system. So a core portion of our system is the automatic filter backflush. It's not something that you have to deal with on a daily basis. You can program it on the HMI, and the filter is going to take care of itself. So it's going to automatically backflush the filter to remove all that debris that has been caught, and then be ready to use again immediately following. So there's 2 initiation methodologies for backflushing the filter. We can either do it on a pressure base. So there's an inlet and outlet pressure sensor on the skid that will basically say, once you've reached a drop in pressure, certain programmed drop in pressure that you can set yourself across the filter, it's time to backflush. At that point, you can also set it up so that the system would immediately backflush, or if you have a wash that maybe has a smaller water supply to the building, you can choose to backflush at the end of the day or a designated time off hours. So you don't have to starve the rest of your system while you're doing your backflushing process. You can also backflush just on a scheduled preset time of day. I think that actually works very well for most customers. Just set it so that it washes a couple hours after you close or a couple hours right before you open in the morning. You've got a clean, freshened filter to start your next day of operations. Backflush requirements, that's also been a question. Obviously, the system is overall designed to save water. It does require some fresh water to backflush the filter. We'll run some run through some math with you coming up here in a few slides. The savings is still fantastic, but you do use some fresh water to backflush. We find most operators are happy with a 10 to 20 minute backflush. On our standard flow system, that's 30 gallons per minute backflushing. So you're going to look at 300 to 600 gallons of water used, depending on how long you're backflushing, how often you're backflushing. We find that most customers, and overall the size of the filter we designed, is the hope that it works for customers to get through a full day of washing without having to backflush in the middle of the day. So you're looking at this, you're backflushing once a day. You're sending between 300 to 600 gallons of water out to sewer as a day to backflush the filter. So installation and integration. So go this route with us, which we hope you do. We just want to walk you through kind of what's required to get the system into your wash and operational. So overall, obviously, huge variety of layouts and car washes, but very high level site overview. You're looking at something like this tunnel-based system. So you'd have somewhere, in your back room there, you're going to have a reclaim system, a high pressure pump stand that you're ultimately feeding the reclaim through. You might have a 3-tank system, is pretty standard within the industry, going out to an oil water separator at the end there. So just give you some more details here. We're going to have a couple plumbing connections and a couple electrical and air connections. So we're ultimately going to need a recirculation line from the reclaim system. Again, that works best sending that out somewhere into your conveyor pit. You're going to have plumbing the good filtered water from the reclaim skid over to your pump stand. You're going to have an overflow of some variety, most likely from your pump stand. And you're going to have a connection point from the reclaim system into where the grinder pumps are located. This just shows a little bit of the electrical connection. So the grinder pump is wired back up to the reclaim system. It comes with I believe it's a 10 meter, so about 33 foot pre-wired cable on it. That can be extended if you need to. You just obviously have to do that in a watertight fashion, depending on where you're making that extension. So in an ideal situation, your reclaim system in your back room is near your tanks, but we have sites ourselves that system is on the complete opposite side of the building, far away. So you're just going to have to run a longer chase, and you can run the electrical wires through that. And then you're going to run an 1.5 a 2-inch Boston line from the grinder pump up to the reclaim skid. So generally we have an underground PVC chase for that. We'll run the motor cable and the Boston hose from the grinder pump back up to the reclaim skid there. And you're also going to have an air line running through a chase to get to your micro bubbler. So again, that might come all into one tank and feed the air line over to a separate tank. You might have a different input area for that as well. So huge amount of variety in terms of how these are all laid out, but the system is there to have flexibility for you to be able to have it work in whatever site you have. So overall integration, in-ground sediment tanks. So again, we're looking at a normal 3-tank system. Some people have more tanks than that, or baffles in those 3 tanks that kind of make them work separately. So you're really going to take all of your drained water from your wash operation to your first settlement tank. That's your initial collection. It's used there to collect the heavy particles and let them start to settle out. As that flow slows down, you get into your second settlement tank. Those finer particles will start to fall out. That's also where we generally have the micro bubbler. Again, we suspend that. We have you suspend that with chains or ropes off the bottom of the wash tank, just so that we're not churning up any of that settlement that's happening within that tank. And then your third tank is generally considered your clarifying tank. That's where we're going to have the grinder pump, and that's where we're ultimately going to be taking the water back out of the pit system and sending it back up to the reclaim system up top. So just to give you kind of a visual overview of that stuff, feeding really from right to left in this, you're going to hit your heavy settlement tank, your micro bubbler settlement tank 2, and then your clarifying tank. You're going to have your grinder pump. You can also see there photo, it sits on about like a 18 to 20 inch stand, again, to keep that pump up off the bottom. It's sent with a lift chain also, so you can lower the pump into the into the tank easily through your hatch, and then keep that chain attached so you can pull it back out, obviously, if you ever need to service the pump. So just to summarize some of our differences versus some other systems in terms of approach. So, a typical system, it might almost be, we jokingly say a build your own reclaim system. You're going to have a lot of extra PVC. You're going to have to be kind of building the skid yourself, if that makes sense. And lots of pipes underground to go to a variety of systems. For us, it's really a single 6-inch chase pipe. You can feed your grinder pump hose, your electric, and your airline all through that. It's very, very simple. So another typical system issue is the pipes must be precisely installed through concrete in the back room to connect the filtration system. Ours is really set up to be flexible. It's easy to set in a new building. It's easy to set in a retrofit as well. So generally, even if you have a site that hasn't had reclaim in it before, almost always there's a way to get the hose, electric, and airline into that pit pretty easily, and then you can have reclaim now built into your system. Another issue with the other systems, high complexity, very specific dimensions. For us, we're really looking for a flexible solution for you, something that's easy, cut the hose length, and you're off to the races, so to speak. So maintenance, that's a big one. Obviously, everyone here is in the business of washing cars. We're trying to decrease maintenance as much as possible. I often joke, I want this thing to be a crock pot. You plug it in, set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about it on a daily basis. And even when you do have to do maintenance, it's minor, it's easy, and you're back to washing cars. So for us, here are some key kind of maintenance items in their frequency you might see. So, I always say visual inspection of all your equipment. Love to have operators, managers, just walk in the back room every day. Keep your eyes on things. Don't look down at the ground. Is everything tight? See any drips, see any leaks, see any issues? But that's just a quick walk by check. And really, I would say we would recommend that for all equipment in the back room. So clean the SEG and dosing pump surfaces. Nothing really to do with the SEG pump per se, but just overall up top, take a quick look at it, give it a little wipe down weekly, keep dust off things. The larger maintenance items for the pump, for the SEG pump, for cables, impeller, housing, and the grinding system overall is every 3,000 hours or at least once a year. So there is also an oil change in the grinder pump. That's an available oil product from us or from Grundfos directly. But again, pull the pump up every 3,000 hours, do an oil change on it, make sure everything's tight, sealed, everything looks good. If you do have a lot of heavy material that you are grinding in the system, the impeller can wear slightly over time. It's very easy. There's a video on YouTube from Grundfos where we can walk you through it. It's very easy. A few small hand tools. You can reset that gap on the grinding blade. So that's a great thing to do when you're changing it out. Changing the oil out once a year is just to reset that gap on the grinding head. Check dosing head pump screws. That's a Grundfos thing every 3 months. And then, for media bed, people ask us all the time, what's the maintenance on the media? How long does it last? Really depends on how much you're using it. But we like to just say, pop the top off once a year, poke your head in there, make sure everything looks okay. You can measure with a little dipstick and see if the media bed has decreased at all in any way, shape, or form. There is an anthracite product in the media bed that can break down over time. That's generally what you're going to see is kind of the wear item over time. So just keeping track of where that media bed is moving or not moving within the use of the filter is just another thing. Just keep your eye on. So water savings, obviously reclaim. The idea here is we're going to reuse some water that will decrease our overall intake of fresh water, save us money, and obviously great environmental impacts as well. Something great to advertise to your customers and things of that nature. And even, municipalities and stuff like that, building new sites, huge. If you're not required to use reclaim, can be a huge leg up in terms of permitting process to just advertise that you are and show savings in the overall infrastructure of your municipality. So basic. This is kind of a breakdown on how we really use reclaim here at our Hoffman washes. So I would say we're actually relatively conservative with our reclaim usage. All of our washes are in the Northeast, so we have very clean, very abundant, very cheap fresh water that allows us to ultimately use a little bit less reclaim. But this is just kind of a one sample example here. So you can see without reclaim, we're at about 50 gallons a car. Our high pressure side blaster, you saw in the GIF earlier, that's the main spot we're using reclaim currently. We use about 15 gallons per car on that system. So we're saving about 15 gallons per vehicle, drops us down to about 35 gallons per car. You'll see in some of these other examples I have, some customers are very happy and content using it on their high pressure top washes as well, or maybe it's through a flutter arch of some variety. There's some customers that are also comfortable using it on some of their chemical applications as well. I'll just say anytime you might be using it with a chemical application, that's something definitely you have a detailed conversation with your chemical supplier around, just to make sure that you're using reclaim safe chemicals, and ultimately, using them to their recommendations is really going to be the biggest challenge there. So a little bit more math here in terms of water savings. So trying to give you kind of two breakdown here is an example. So standard flow, we're going to kind of tailor that more in this example, use that for a lower volume wash. So maybe 350 cars a day. And just so you know, for numbers here, I did 360 operating days a year on all of these. So standard flow, maybe you're washing 350 cars a day, and then two options here for kind of some cheaper water options and more expensive water options. Also in the standard flow, I highlighted that we're only using 15 gallons per car. So I would say this is your more conservative view of the reclaimed water savings. You can see there is the backflush water usage. So if you're doing 10 minutes at 30 gallons a minute, you're going to consume another 300 gallons of water, but we're going to take that off of our savings. And you can see even in these conservative numbers, you're saving almost 2 million gallons of water. And depending on your water costs, you could be saving between $14,000 and $25,000 a year just in water costs alone. And again, these are pretty conservative numbers. Now, if you look at a little bit more aggressive high flow situation, you have a high volume wash, maybe you're washing 1,000 cars a day, same options for water costs, but you're going to be a little more aggressive, and you're going to bump your reclaim usage up to 25 gallons. So you're only using 25 gallons of fresh per car. You can see the savings really get good really quickly in a high volume, more aggressive reclaim usage wash like that. Even when I bump up the time of flush and the requirement for the high flow has a higher gallons per minute requirement for the backflush, you're still going to save like 8.6 million gallons of water a year. And your savings can be $68,000 to $120,000 a year just in water costs. So if you have a high volume wash, reclaim is really, really a no-brainer. And even if you have a relatively low volume wash, the savings are there very quickly to make this make sense for you. So that's our main presentation, I would say. And then this also just shows kind of some of the customers that obviously are trusting our products now. And a big thing for us, I'll just highlight Hoffman Car Wash. Obviously, we've got 30 washes at this point. It's great for us. Our products are tuned and designed to work within car washes. We use our washes as a test bed for our equipment all the time. So the ideas and the things that come out of these products are from operators' firsthand experience. We're addressing the problems that the operators are actually facing. They're tested in the line of fire. They're tested within high volume washes. Customers are giving us feedback, internal and external. We're making adjustments and making our products better every day. So that's really our focus is for the customer at the end of the day. We're here to try to be a partner with you and solve your problems so that you can run your business how you need to run your business. That's all I have on slides. I think we'll jump back to Dan. I'm not sure if we have any questions in our chat or not.
Thank you, Gavin. Thank you very much. We do actually have a couple here. So in the meantime, if you have any other questions, please go ahead and submit those now. But there are a couple to get us started here. One was going back to the the slide where you discussed the back flushing of the system. We had listed at 30 gallons per minute on the standard flow. And the question is, was that on the 24-inch or 30-inch diameter filter, which would be the standard or the high flow when we were listing that, the back flush?
So the 30 gallons per minute backwash is for the 24-inch diameter filter, which is the standard flow. The 30-inch filter bumps up to a 60 gallon per minute flow regulator for the back flush. At the end of the day, it's just the flow required to physically lift the media up properly to lose the sediment out of it and send it to sewer. So you're going to need 60 gallons per minute if you have a high flow, and you're going to need 30 gallons per minute for standard flow. And just to expand on that in terms of like how you set up and configure your filter to flush, it's why a lot of customers like to flush off hours. So if you're back flushing at 60 gallons per minute during your operation, you're not only taking 60 gallons a minute away from your wash to back flush the filter, but you're also probably supplementing with 50 gallons a minute of fresh water to make up for whatever you were using reclaim on. So that can be a pretty large delta in the overall flow requirement to run your business and run your wash. And that's really where it's nice to just wash it, back flush it off hours when nothing else is consuming water, easy, and then it's set up and ready to go for the next day.
And the second part to that one is what pressure is recommended for that back flush, or the actual pressure setting of the flow itself.
It's more of a flow related issue. So any municipal street pressure is going to be fine for the backwash, but it's more about getting that flow. The flow through the filter from the bottom up when it's backwashing is really what's causing the lift and the separation of the media and allowing that allowing the sediment that's been trapped to loosen up and float out the top, essentially. So it's really a flow related problem more than it is a pressure related problem.
Perfect. Now here's one you'll love, Gavin. So question: can we use a nano bubble generator instead of microbubbler?
You could. At the end of the day, the bubbling device is there to oxygenate the water. So the micro bubbler for us is a simple, easy to use solution. Without letting the cat totally out of the bag, we have a nano bubbler currently testing on a reclaim system that was just installed a couple weeks ago. So obviously the term nano bubbles is becoming more and more something that people are discussing in the industry. We're starting to see some equipment talk about potentially incorporating it, and we're also making those investigations ourselves. So if you happen to have a nano bubble system or something that you feel is helpful in your wash system already, or adding oxygenation to your system, it's certainly something that could be incorporated. At the end of the day, our reclaim system is part of the larger overall wash system. So there's a balancing that needs to happen. We're trying to make it so you don't have to be a wastewater engineer, an expert to run all of this stuff. But there's certainly people that I'll say enjoy that process some more and maybe want to incorporate some additional devices like a nano bubble or something else in that wash. And it's not going to hurt anything, certainly. So.
All right, Gavin, I think we're clear. You did such a wonderful job. No more questions to go, it looks like. Answered it all.
All right. Thanks,
all right, well, thank you again, everybody,
for
joining. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.